Hello, everyone, and welcome to the episode 47 of the Office Hours podcast. We'd like to welcome back Mo. And it feels like we're going to continue the conversation that we had last time because, last time after the camera stopped rolling, we ended up talking for a little bit longer. And we kind of realized that the question we're trying to ask or answer really was, what is a good way of getting better quality developers on your team? And maybe we'll try to expand on it a little bit more today. So, let's get on with it.
Like you said, we wanted to continue where we stopped in our last discussion. And have you had some more time to think about it, like how to improve quality of developers?
Not really. I haven't spent that much time thinking about it for the purposes of this conversation, let's say, but I am spending more time thinking about it for the purposes of like, if we get new people on our team, how to make sure that they are good, you know. And it kind of goes on these tangents for interviewing and all of the different interviewing processes that you get in big companies. And recently I've read this article that was saying that an interview that has a lot of stages is usually not a good thing. And it cited
Yeah.
various different things. Like if you go interviewing for like Amazon or Google, they like have you for an entire day. You would have like five different people talking to you for an hour each, or there's like various phone calls and take homes before you even get to talk to any of the engineers, and it's just like this very long and protracted process. And people argue that it's kind of to filter people out better and things like that. But also at the same time, whoever wrote this article raised a couple of points which I found were interesting, that you know only people who are like really desperate are going to be willing to go through that grueling process. So you automatically like filtering out a bunch of people. Like if somebody is really
Hmm.
good, they can probably get a better offer in less amount of time elsewhere, and they probably would. And the only people that are like, oh shit, I have to go through 7 stages of interview, but I really need a job. So, let's kind of grind it out. So there's that aspect of it, which I kind of agree with. Like if I have opportunities and I can get hired a company in 2 hours, or I can get hired in a company in like 8 hours across 3 or 4 weeks. Guess which one I'm gonna pick, right?
It depends, but up to you. Go
Well,
on.
like with other things being equal, a shorter interview process is definitely preferable to a longer one, right? And it also goes into things like lead code and that style of interview where you just put to some very, very contrived synthetic test for which there are many, many ways to, I wouldn't say necessarily cheat it, but to kind of just rote memorize the things you need to rote memorize that you're never going to use in your professional career ever again. That does not really expand on you as a candidate, on your strengths and weaknesses. And, I started watching a couple of videos with like fairly high profile people from open source communities doing like these mock interviews. I haven't watched that much of it. I actually have to find time to do so. But um, one guy has like a template for offering, and it's kind of talking mostly about like high level candidates. So if you're hiring a junior, it's a different ball game compared to if you're hiring a senior, obviously. But his whole thing was that he's basically giving the candidate an option. It's like, how can we interview you in a way where you can kind of show your strength to us and not just go through some checklist of questions that we ask that might not even begin to uncover like what you can bring. And I thought that was interesting, so I kind of need to research on that a little bit more and sort of see that template and see what we can leverage from that, because I find that you know bad hiring decisions are sticking with you for a long time, and bad hiring decisions eventually turn into firing decisions, and having to go through that process is not particularly pleasant for all involved, right? So even out of pragmatic and selfish reasons of like trying to minimize that, it's like, yeah, we better make the right choice the first time around, you know. So that's kind of are my thoughts on a subject in a little bit of a wishy-washy kind of way. So I'm interested to hear what you have in mind about that.
Um, I think indeed, like I feel maybe the big companies with the long hiring process um might be a hassle, but I think that doesn't stop people from going through this process. And it doesn't also mean that they always have the best candidates too. Like no matter how the process goes. Because I feel interviews are like could become easily like exams, like school exams. And if you go to school, you know how to pass the exams. Some people just know how to do well in exams, no matter how it is. So, and this does not translate to how dedicated you will be to the role or like how much effort you want to put in the role. But going through all these stages, there are several reasons why people wouldn't mind to go through it anyway. Because first thing is um for the company. Some companies look really good, feels good. There's passion. Like there is like if you have a bit more um how do you say you feel a bit more fulfilled to say like, oh yeah, I'm working on this product that 100 million people are using, or like rather than like working on something that you don't even have a user yet, and you don't even know if you're gonna have a user because the CEO keeps telling you like there is no market. This is a different thing. Although you're still doing something, but it's not on the same level. Like anyway, I'm just trying to say like it depends. Like you could go through it, but also like this long process kind of discourages a lot of people, which is how they are able to filter people. So the people who actually go through it are people who really want it. Like,
Right.
you really want this
But you
company.
know, the desperation is never attractive though. So maybe
Yeah,
out of those people, portion of them are gonna be super excited to work for the company. They're willing to endure 7 levels of interview process. But then the other half are going to be people who like really just need a job and they're willing to endure however many levels of the interview. So it's a filter. Uh, Whichever way those dice are going to fall, it's a filter. But the question is it a good enough filter to actually get better people by the end of it or not? And, you know, our interview process that we're doing right now is fairly short, so we're not trying to extend it. But even with a short process, it's also not very indicative of who you're gonna get, because everybody tries to put their best foot forward at the interview, or you know uh, exaggerate the truths a little bit about themselves.
it's an
And
interview. It's an interview.
well, yeah, right. It's but it is an interview, but um, obviously, again, the incentives are aligned in such a way that some people will literally say whatever you want to hear just to get hired, right?
You won't?
Um, well, at this stage, probably not, because if I am to put myself in a position where I just bullshit the entire way through it and then I don't know what to do, uh,
Oh yeah, not like
like
lying that much.
well,
But
but that's what I'm saying. Like,
okay,
there's gonna
okay.
be people who are gonna be just completely
Sort of like
unprepared and
mm,
trying to BS their way through the entire thing. And like, there's gonna be a tiny percentage of them that's gonna get hired. And if it's a big organization, they kind of be lost in a noise for like 6 months, drawing a paycheck, not really doing anything. And for some people, that's like actually a strategy. It's just like get hired, you know, during your trial period, blah blah blah, whatever. Pretend that you're doing something, and then once they eventually clue in, then you know, and you've been searching for other gigs in the meantime, right? So, um,
Yeah.
so there's that, and
Hmm.
again, the thing that I got burned by in the past, bunch of years back, which kind of made me very reluctant to do interviews, is that there was one candidate that like completely passed my BS filter. He was like dropping uh, all the right keywords at all the right times, and even though three other people on an interviewing team basically said no, I was like, yeah, this guy is great, and it ended up being a complete shit show, and I was like, oof, you know. Um, Maybe the problem was that, you know, how do you go, like, should you be interviewing somebody as just one person and hold the ultimate responsibility, or should there be like a team where there has to be some kind of tiebreaker, where if even at least one person says definitely not, then it's definitely not, right? And I was watching this other video. I think it was from Prime maybe, and he was saying that the gradation was at the extremes. It was like, I will quit if you hire this person, or I will quit if you don't hire this person. And the two other ones were like broadly for or broadly against, you know, which was kind of interesting. So it's like very, very, very strong indicator. It's like, oh, I really don't want to work with this guy. He just rubs me all the wrong ways. And so, yeah, it's just like how do you set up that process for the filtering? Because I guess for me, in a lot of cases in my jobs, I didn't really have to go through protracted interviewing processes because a lot of them were like referrals through community, through people who knew me or worked with me previously. So it was more of a pro forma thing to go for an interviewing thing. And the ones which were more ad hoc, let's say, were less successful for me. I got like filtered out by the end for various reasons. I had ones where I did really well on a technical side, and then ended up talking to like one of their VPs, and they had like a really, really strange interviewing style. And I think that, you know, I didn't really understand what the hell he wanted from me. And so in the
Yeah.
end, they decided not to proceed. So I don't have that much of an experience from the opposite side, like of being interviewed. I haven't really done that many of them because so far I've been mostly, you know, lucky with my hiring. So, you know, hard for
Yeah.
me to
Well,
say.
I mean, for me, I think I've done a few, just a few really. But the thing is, I not, I think if I have a company right now and I'm hiring someone for my team or for my company, or I'm in a position where I have to hire someone now, I don't think I will pay. I mean, technical knowledge, technical skill, these are things that they are not fixed, like this does not, it's not like, oh, the things you can learn, really. I think I would pay more attention to attitude, like to like mindset. Like I would like to have people who want to do things, who want to are eager to learn new things, because these are the skills that we will be able to use in any area of the job. Because if you're willing to work, you're not just coming to work because you know you have to. You're coming because you actually like what you do. This is an indicator for me that you will enjoy what you're doing at the job. Also, if you have the personality to learn, then we're not stuck with the skill that you're bringing in. You can also learn the skill that we have, and you will be willing to learn and to use it.
Hmm.
And different like soft skills like this will be more important to me because at the end of the day, in tech, I think sometimes it is very tempting to focus on like technical skills or like how big is your Git profile or something like this. But this does not translate to someone caring about the job. You could get hired like tomorrow and then they leave because someone looked at them wrongly. And what happens to your job then? You know,
Yeah,
like you would want to have people who want to be there.
yeah.
And this does not necessarily mean like they have to be the best candidate on paper. I think it's more about like personality for me. Like this would be more
Yeah,
important for
yeah.
me.
I used to think like that for a long time, and I think as I probably mentioned throughout our previous conversation that thinking kind of started changing a little bit. And I had some time to consider some of these things, and I'm just thinking that when it comes to skills that you already have, for another person that has the same skills, it's very easy to ascertain whether you do or don't. It's kind of like this binary thing. It's like you either know how to do something or you don't know how to do something. And so in the interview process, if you ask somebody like a specific question about something and they are able to answer, then you know. However, when it comes to gauging their capacity for learning things, that's a whole other thing. Like, how can you trivially gauge someone's capacity for learning things in like an hour long interview?
You could. Um, See, I don't know if it's for me or personally, but I think there are certain type of questions to that you answer in like interviews that shows your personality, like who you are. Some people catch on to it, but some people also because of the tension of the environment, like maybe like, oh yeah, it's an interview, they probably miss it, and then after they remember like, oh, this is why this person was. There's certain questions like, say for example, you could bring up a scenario, and also interviews are not usually like, if you really want to know someone, you don't ask them questions that direct questions like this, like, oh, what did you do yesterday? These are not the kind of questions you want to use to know someone. You have like conversations. This is how you get to know. I think interviews is like going on a date, you know. It's not, you don't go to your date with like with a pen and paper kind of written down questions. Honestly, you could get by if this works for you, but you want to really ask the questions as it like make them feel comfortable enough to talk. You could be in an interview and you could ask questions about like, oh,
I guess,
how
but
was
yeah,
it?
before you go into details, I'm still in a mode of like hiring like someone senior, and a senior
Yeah.
person should be fairly comfortable in the interview. Like, if you're a junior who just fresh out of college and you haven't done any interviews, then it's understandable that you're gonna be like freaking out. But if you've been in an industry more than 10 years, going interview, sure, it's stressful, but it shouldn't be as stressful that you just like completely lock up and start drawing blanks because you have all these years of experience to give something back, right? So
Um,
in a general sense, it's not really about that. It's mostly, you know, because I've seen some people in the industry who've been in the industry for a really long time, and that by itself didn't really prove anything. Because in terms of like learning new skills quickly, they weren't that good. So just the duration of you being in the industry is not really an indicator in itself. It's a decent heuristic in most cases, but it's not foolproof.
you know, this is true. I agree, but what I was saying is like when I said like sometimes like the pressure of the interview, it's difficult to lie, basically, except you're like a psychopath.
Yeah,
Lying is one of the is very difficult for human brain.
that's
So because you
true.
have to keep up the lie, you have to mentally be in the present to keep up with the lie.
Hmm.
So if you go in a conversation with someone and you're asking them, oh, how did it go in your last project, something like this. And you can see that also there are certain tells on your facial cues, that your body language that can, I mean, yeah,
I think
maybe.
what we're getting to here is that I agree, and this is the part where it's easy. There are certain things that when you notice them, you immediately filter that person out, right?
Hmm,
So
no,
like
not
I
really.
think a lot of
It's
people say that you can tell what the outcome of the interview is going to be within like the first 10 minutes of it. And usually
That's fact.
the rest is just like, okay, well, we have to
Let's
keep up
finish it.
appearances, right?
Yeah,
Let's just
yeah,
like
true.
wrap it up. But like you know very quickly if it's a no, which is good. But the question then becomes is like, well, how do you know that it's like a yes? That is like a definitely a yes. That's the
Like, are
part,
you
you know?
are you are you speaking from like the interviewer or like the interviewee?
No, interviewer.
Yeah, honestly, you also need to come to the interview knowing exactly what you want on your team, like the kind of personality you want on your team.
I want a clone of myself, basically, skill wise.
Of course, if you want a clone of yourself, then you would have to, like I said, it's like going on a date, really. Like you have to, what would you, what's exciting to you? What are something that you find exciting about your job? Like what do you enjoy the most about it?
But see, I'm selfish. I want all the exciting bits for myself. I want grunts to do the grunt work.
Up to you, Vasily. Up to you. Like,
Well,
but
I
if
mean,
you,
I'm kind of kidding because there's too many exciting things that one could be doing and you can't do all of them at once. So that's never really an issue. But, at the same time, um, going kind of a little bit back to the whole point of, oh, they can learn a skill. It's like probably, okay, considering that you're hiring a person who can learn the skill, it's still going to take them some time to learn the skill, right? And like good people are going to do it quicker, not so good people are going to do it slower. But if you're working on a project and you need something delivered like next month or two, and you spend like half of that time training somebody to do the thing, it's going to be very, very stressful. So the further I go into this whole thing, the more I think it's like, you know what? I could train people to do things if they are capable of being trained. But sometimes I'd rather just have the person that knows, where I can say, we need thing X done. And he would say, or she would like, okay, got it. And just go and do it without having to, put in too
you
much
could,
effort and hand holding and babysitting and all of that kind of stuff, right?
you absolutely you could, but it's like it's like getting. It depends. I feel like it depends on the type of work that you do on your team. If you work basically the same stack, you don't think there will be any need to learn anything new. You could just go straight to hire someone who has been doing the same thing that you're working on. Except, of course, like you will have a reason why you're hiring. If you're hiring for, say, React, for example, like you just hire someone that has been working in React for like what, 10 years? Maybe this is good, and then this is enough. But if you want someone who will be able to like, do something maybe on mobile, or maybe you have interest in like do cleaning up like codes or something like this, like any other things that they'll be excited to do other things outside of what they were really hired to do. Like then it comes down to attitude, because like some people just want to get paid for what they are hired to do. Like if I said I signed the contract to be React dev, this is the only thing I want to do. Don't tell me about, oh, we have a project tomorrow, like, oh, it's a mobile project, and no. There are people like this. They just tell you no, no, and you can't really. What do you say about this? You know. So up
Yeah.
to you. Actually, I think for you, before you actually go to market, I think you really need to know exactly what you want on your team and like the kind of people. If you want yourself, I guess you have to also define who you are, like in terms of like properties, like what makes, how can somebody describe you on your team? And yeah, I guess this is how you find a clone of yourself. But to be honest, would you even want to work with a clone of yourself?
Well, I mean, not like exactly a clone of myself in that way, but more of a just I don't know, not to kind of I don't really like tooting my own horn, as the expression goes, but um, on many projects, I would join a project and I'd be able to contribute something like really soon. On some projects which are really complicated, it takes a while to kind of get into the nitty gritties, but a lot of times, you know, like I would basically start doing code reviews week one of being there, right? And I've worked with a lot of people who don't really do that. I don't, and I don't know why. Like I don't see the desire to improve things. A lot of people are very happy just, working on the tickets assigned to them and nothing else. And,
That's the job. That's what they were hired for.
right, but that's true. So that there is that aspect of like that is what they were hired for, but that also means that it has to be spelled out. Everything has to be spelled out. And the time that it takes to spell everything out is longer than the time that it takes to just do it myself, right? Which is a trap because ultimately, the higher level role you are, the more delegation you should be doing. But again, it's just a very long time. It takes a long time, and probably it's a skill issue as well on my end, not being
Maybe.
able to spell it out in fewer words.
No, this is not. I mean, when I said skill issue, I think sometimes I notice this, but it may not be for everybody. I notice like sometimes like when you get to a certain level in your career, and I just noticed this from like all the senior people, like staff devs that are around me. I think when you get to a certain level in your career, everyone else around you seems like garbage. Everyone else. It's just, it's the way. Now you're looking down at people and not really like on the same level anymore. So there is a, it's, I feel like at some point, then it becomes challenging to even be able to collaborate with other people, and you just feel like, well, I might just do it myself. But this type of at this point, it's difficult for you to help other people because other people want to work with you to be able to learn how you work. What I mean, people who want to work would want to work with you to be able to learn how you work and understand the concepts that you employ, like in your day to day, even as to the minutest details, as like how you schedule your time.
Mm.
These are things like people who look up to you on the team would actually really want to learn from you. But the issue now is that you don't see them as people who can come close to you because you put a very big gap in terms of skill level. Now you don't think they should even be around your shirt or be around your computer
No, I
because
don't think.
no,
Well,
no, I'm not saying
yeah,
you. I'm
for me
just saying
personally,
like
it's definitely not like
no, I'm
that.
not saying
Yeah.
you. But I noticed this a lot
Hmm.
around like a lot of people who are like, yeah, and then you don't do what we do or like in this kind of things. You just take care of your ticket, like go home, or like you cannot understand what I'm doing. It's okay. Like I
Hmm.
understand it completely. Like maybe they won't understand what you're doing, but I think. I'm just putting this out there, like, because this is media. Like, I think people who have like really a lot of experience should would benefit more from sharing this time and like um putting a little bit more, reducing the gap between
Mm,
other people that they consider to have less experience to them compared to
yeah,
them.
yeah. No,
Like I think
I,
this is good for everybody, for you, for everybody on the team. Like, and then this way, I don't think passing judgment on other parts of the team helps much. Like,
but now we've arrived at the point where we started. It's like, how do you get people that are actually trainable in a quick amount, like in a short amount of time? You can actually skill them up to a higher level, and not somebody who's just there to do their 9 to 5 or there to do their tickets or there and they're not willing to learn anything new, or
yeah,
it just takes forever for them to learn something new. I'd be all for having an entire team of people who just pick things up like this, where you don't have to show something more than twice and everything's progressing super nicely and people care about the code base and care about refactoring and improving it and like doing all of these things and finding ways of getting everything better. But for that, you have to have people like that first. And the question is, well, how do you get the people like that? You
yeah.
know?
This is what I was saying earlier. Like in terms of like when people pay attention to different things. Like you have to know what is important to you
Mm-hmm.
when you're hiring for your team. Like, do you do you do you want more personality or do you want more technicality? Like, which one is
Yeah.
more important to you? Because if you hire technical people, they just do exactly what they're hired to do. And some people, if you can have both sometimes. And if you happen to have someone who knows what they're doing and also have the attitude to want to learn more, then you hit the jackpot there. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's mostly about attitude. For me, this is what I would be focusing on. Like, if I have to hire someone right now on my team, I think I don't know if I would care much about um how much work you've done. I mean, it comes into play because then it's like an experience and stuff. But I think what will matter to me more will be like you being able, coachable, being able to learn stuff and like also willing to do outside of the job because we work in an environment where we never know what we're going to use tomorrow. Like maybe tomorrow we might have to go all the way to another framework or whatever we might have to
Maybe
learn
that should be the
tomorrow.
question. It's like, don't tell me all of the stuff you did during your job. Tell me all of the stuff that you did programming wise outside of your job.
Yeah,
And
that's a
if you
good
say I
question.
didn't do anything, then, well, wah wah.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah,
Honestly,
I
this is
think
one of
that
the
that's
questions.
actually not too bad.
Yeah, you want to learn how the work outside of work, like what do you spend your time on outside of work?
Yeah.
Like
Because I think
if
if
you
you do spend time outside of your work programming, that's quite a big indicator that you're like really into programming, right?
Yeah, this is an indicator. Also, it's an indicator for sure, but there are also some people, you know what? For you, I think this will work perfectly for you because if you because I want to say like there's certain people who have gotten to the stage where it's a job now, like they just do it for work,
Mm-hmm.
like, you're not going home anymore
Yeah,
to
it's just a job to
when you
collect a paycheck. Yeah,
yeah, like they're just some people are like this.
yeah.
And then there's some people who put in effort, like outside of work to like learn things and like look for how to improve themselves and these kind of things. Like,
Mm,
yeah,
yeah. I think
this
if I
this
if
could be
like
good.
if I look back, like the amount of stuff that I learned on the job and the amount of stuff I learned off the job, like I don't know which one will have more, but off the job stuff definitely was like a huge component, especially early on. Now maybe not so much. Uh, you know, getting old and all that kind of
Yeah.
it's kind
Yeah.
kind of tough to spend all of your time doing that stuff, but I still do that occasionally. Not as often as I used to, definitely not. Um, Sometimes you just want to be lazy, and with passage of time, I find myself wanting to be lazy more than doing something, which is a bad trend, I guess. But what are you gonna do? Um, but yeah, yeah. So maybe that question definitely should be incorporated into it. Yeah, I think the other
Yeah.
problem is like if you work for a big company, there's usually like a big hierarchy of stuff that needs to happen for somebody to get hired, or they work with some external vendors and vendors pre-select. So your pool shrinks as it is. Maybe because I don't know how your company does it, but my company, there's like different processes for full-time versus contractors, and contractors is like a simplified process because they allegedly supposed to come pre-vetted. Um, and yeah, I find it interesting because also for a long time you kind of think about contractors like they're in an interesting position because some of them work like where am I going with this? Like one of the things that I had for me when I was doing consulting and like being a contractor where I was not part of like the official staff, I was just there to do the thing, is that being a contractor, you don't have to participate in like company politics because you basically don't give a shit. You're there for 6 months and then you're gone. Like there's literally no reason to invest any time into doing that. So you can focus strictly on code. But then on the other hand, I've seen a bunch of instances where, some years back I was like working for a bank and they were just hiring a bunch of contractors. And it was like, oh, the contractors, they're just here to temporarily plug some gaps. And if they don't have some work, but their contract is still there. So they just kind of spend time sometimes, not really, they're just kind of there. So I think within that group, there's going to be people who just gonna like, okay, I'm going to just take a contract and just do the barest minimum because I can. And there's going to be the ones that's like, okay, I have to come in, I have to do this job quick, and I have to get out and find next one. So like super efficient, highly motivated. So it's like very, very broad spectrum for that either. Right. So that even that is not really an indicator of the type of person you're gonna get. So I'm not sure where I was going with this. It's mostly if you have a convoluted hiring process, what goes out to the broader community is some 2-page document where half of it is just going to be the same boilerplate about how we want a team player and a great communicator and blah 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 that literally everybody puts down. Is basically turned into white noise. It's like who cares? Everybody says exactly the same thing. Like if you look at Indeed, all of the job profiles where they're hiring for candidates, half of it is going to be talking about company culture or whatever, and then other like a third is going to be about how great they are and how they're looking for the best and the best, and then a little bit of blurb about like the stack that they're working with. So you can't, you know, if you're fishing, if you're fishing for a big fish, you have to have a very fancy lure. And so far on all the job hunting sites, all of the lures look suspiciously the same, and they're not very interesting. And so maybe that's why particularly big fish don't really go for it. Like people of that caliber normally get hired through personal connections and prior experiences and things like that. So
I think I think I think it's possible that also like the the type of people that you want. I mean, maybe from my own point of view, because like I'm listening to you now and I'm thinking about like to imagine like this type of people that you would like to work with on your team. And I think this could be the pool is large, I believe. Like every day, like we probably have more and more people coming into the industry. And the pool seems large, but I feel
well,
maybe
a lot of juniors are entering the industry. That's true. But if you're if
a lot of seniors too. Like there is a lot of market. Like recently, who did Shopify? there are people who are leaving their jobs, like
Hmm.
who who are probably in the market for something a bit more. And also there are people who are looking for something new, who they might have gotten like more experience in. Like anyway, the thing I'm just trying to say is like
Mm.
I think the people that you are looking for, I think you will find them more easily if you also believe that you will. Because this is off topic now. This is just like mindset thing. Because I always have like, if you're looking for something, you have to believe that you'll find it, no? Like otherwise, like you might just keep walking around. Just no, if you don't think you will find it, or you don't even think you can find it,
It
I don't know
reminded
if you will
me
find
of
it.
this old science fiction novel about this, research
Mm,
university of like wizardry and magic, unrelated to Harry Potter. It was more of a in a Soviet aesthetic, but they had a department of search for answers for unsolvable problems. And when people say like, why would you search for answers to unsolvable problems, it was basically, well, what's the interest of finding answers to solvable problems if you know that the answer is guaranteed to exist? It's way more fun to search for the
yeah,
unsolvable
I
ones
guess
in
like
the
yeah.
off chance that you find it, right? So yeah, there's probably something to it. But I think for me personally, in my team currently, in my situation, I'm pretty far removed from the prequel part of the hiring pipeline. I get some people by the end of it, so a lot of pre-selection has been done by that point, and I just have to work with um, whoever I get on my plate, and I have no control over anything that happens prior to, or very little, I would say. So and because and I'm not saying that I'd like to control that entire pipeline, but like that's an entirely different skill in itself, and I don't necessarily think that I'd like to go into that. And it's just I'm working what I have. And the other thing I was gonna say is that um, I guess the realities of working for a Canadian company in Canada, where there's like a bunch of really well-funded U.S. companies are present in the market at the same time, like that definitely changes the dynamic quite a bit because you know Canadian companies are usually not in a habit of offering the kind of salaries that their American counterparts could offer. And by that
Yeah.
alone, there's a lot of filtering happening in the market where people who are like really the cream of the crop, they're gonna go to various Facebooks and Googles, right? Because why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Like if you know
Yeah.
that you can get a job at Google at 300K a year, why would you go for a Canadian company at 100K a year? That just doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
But you see, this is what I'm saying. Like, I think right now, I'm gonna use an analogy, right?
Mm,
Like, I'm sitting from my own point of view. This is how I feel that you're saying it. I feel like it's like sometimes when you want some people want a date, you want to go out with a girl or with a guy, whatever the deal is, and maybe it's not happening right now. Then you start to like compute all the many reasons why it probably would not happen, or it hasn't happened, and then you hold on to these reasons like
you're saying it's a
like
self-fulfilling prophecy?
yeah, like yeah, because in Canada alone, I would say we have like thousands of engineers coming out of school every year, and we don't even have enough to keep them around. Like serious, some of them are still in the market, good ones even with several degrees, and not to even talk of boot camps
Yeah.
now. So there is a lot of fishes right now in the river. The thing is, what type of fish do you want? And you have to figure this out, do your own part of the job to figure this out in the process. And then you have to also like position yourself like when this fish actually comes, would the fish want to go home with you? Because
I think
because
we're getting into
because
mixed metaphors there. No, I see what you're saying. The other thing
because
too that
sorry, I was gonna say
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
because if you happen to meet someone like you and you meet this person that you really want, would they want to work with you from the interview? Because like most times people forget, like as an interviewee, I'm also looking at you if I want to work with you because if I'm asking you certain questions and I see how you're like talking to me and I see how you react to certain things, I can already imagine how you will control my life. And you want to work with people who will help you to become better people. So like you also have to prepare yourself for the fish. So there is a lot of things going on here, you know.
Would you want to work with me, Mo?
Yeah, yeah, I mean, for sure, we're working right now, no, for sure. But yeah, there is this. I think I'm saying it now. I based on we've not really like done a lot of like technical stuff together, but I
Mm-hmm.
think I'm confident that if we do, I would enjoy working with you
Mm.
because I can see. Of course, I feel like you will probably push me a lot as well, and then maybe I probably might stress you a lot too, because like I probably will ask you like 1,000 questions or whatever. Like we will go very well together, but you have to also, like believe and hope and wait for the right person to come walking through the
Yeah.
door.
No, I mean that that's certainly true. I guess the other thing I was gonna say is that I think right now in the current market, a lot of companies probably don't necessarily want to go for more junior developers because there's obviously risks associated with that. So even though it's true that there's a big pool of graduates coming out, I find that, or not I find, but I think that it's probably a very tough time for them right now because companies are less willing to go for juniors at the moment. So they're sort of stuck in a place where they can't really have industry experience because industry don't want to hire them. So
No, I guess it depends on
yeah.
like where the company is at too. Like honestly, there is market for it. This is the way I see it, yeah. I think there is market for everybody. You just have to find your own niche. Because right now, like there are certain companies who are like startups or like they are like mid-sized companies. They cannot really afford like senior devs because it's expensive and they would rather take like, the middle ones or like the ones that are just like trainable juniors, like they feel fit into their company culture or like they can mold into like I think there is market. I mean, I believe this is just how I see it, and maybe I'm just a half full kind of guy, but but I just think that there is market
Hmm.
for everybody, and this is true because every day there is a new company even coming up. Like there are new businesses being registered. It's tech, like with all this like new AI stuff, everyone has and their uncle right now has like a AI startup somewhere,
Well, yeah,
like
but like funnily enough, I was just thinking about AI in this context too, because if you have an AI that reaches the level of a junior, who's gonna hire
Mhm.
juniors? And if nobody's
I
hiring
don't.
juniors, how would
Mhm.
juniors progress to intermediates and seniors in the future? It effectively just cuts off the progression path, and then
Yeah,
eventually they just disappear. And
I
AI
don't
AI
think.
is forever stuck in the same place because it needs to be trained on someone good. And if we cut off the
Yeah,
supply of good people right there and then, that's it. 20 years down the line, nobody's going in IT, and
no,
all
I
the
don't
old
know.
people with their
Mm,
knowledge are dying off. So that's
I
it.
don't see how AI replaces even junior devs because AI is a tool. It's just a tool at the
Yeah,
end of
but
the
that's
day.
right. Like I was like hearing this interview with some guy, and he was saying like, oh, I can. It takes me less time to fix the problems of AI produced solution than it does to fix the problems of a human produced solution. Therefore, I can replace, all of my juniors with AI and just quickly solve the problems that happen, and I have same level of productivity. And if we consider that statement as true, which under certain circumstances I think you could potentially, fair enough. But I don't think that AI is learning in the process. Like, it will always be at that same shady level that you always have to clean up for it. Meanwhile, if you would have kept your people, they technically should grow in time. So that's the problem that I'm seeing, right? It's like,
I personally, from my own point of view, where I'm sitting right now, I probably call BS on that because if you say, what exactly do you do? This is my question. What do you do that is
if
so
you're just adding
like
buttons to React forms, AI
what
can
do
do
you
that.
do?
What is
What
it
do
that
you
you
do
do
that
here?
is yeah, I mean, if how complicated can it be? Like if also in every team, in every team, there is a process of working, right? Like you don't just merge your codes. Like it's not possible for you to just like write and just like straight up dump it into master prod and then go. There is a process for you. You write, someone reviews, and then
If you're lucky.
someone tests.
If you're
I
lucky.
mean, you who is thinking, I wouldn't even think I want to work with this kind of person who has this kind of mindset, even because
Well,
if you
yeah,
think
but
like
that
this,
that that
if you think
again
like this,
that again
you
comes back
prob
to the whole point of like desperate people looking for any opportunity, right?
I guess like if you want any opportunity, then you end up with like this kind of problem. Because if you think like this, then it means like you probably will be cutting down on the quality of your software because you want
I
to
think
spend less money
I think the quality
on
of
it.
software is just perpetually always crap, you know.
Eh, Up to this type of person, I'm from where I'm sitting right now, I'm calling a big BS on this kind of
Are
statement.
you
Like,
honestly telling me that your code base is just perfect?
no,
Well,
but I'm not gonna say AI will do better because
oh no, no, I'm
AI
not
does.
even saying specifically about AI. But, as that joke goes, like, if you mix a kilo of shit and a kilo of jam, you get 2 kilos of shit. So even a little bit of contamination of a crappy code in your code base, you can declare that code base mostly crappy, right? It's just, and you're never gonna fully clean out the bad parts out of it because it keeps growing and evolving. And you clean up a little bit over here, meanwhile it gets crappier over there, and it's just constantly trying to catch up. So I don't
I,
know. It
I
kind of is
use I
unrelated
use
to what we were talking about, but
yeah, but
yeah.
I use some of this generative AI in some of my day-to-day tasks, like my personal project,
Mm.
and I know the quality that they can give you. Like I have a good idea of what the quality would be.
It's just funny
I
because
don't
6 months ago when we were talking about AI, you were like super gung ho about it. I was like, Mo, it's gonna produce like mediocre results, and now you're like, oh, it's
you see,
producing mediocre results.
no, I'm not saying like how do you say it? I don't think this is the kind of result that you would entirely just like remove all your team for. You can't just like replace all your team with this quality. I mean, again, I don't own the business.
Yeah,
If someone speaks like this, maybe they have other reasons. They want to spend less money. They want to make more profit. It's business at the end of the day.
yeah,
So
yeah. I'm
yeah,
just
it's
I'm
up to
just
them.
thinking that, like, there's these like fully AI generated YouTube channels where it's like text to speech
Yeah,
and like
in
just
video.
random video,
Yeah,
and they just pump out content,
yeah.
and like it'll happen in code as well, I think, at some point.
Of course, it is happening in everything now because if you know, there are also like AI that writes books for you.
Yeah.
Like I think there's one called I mean, maybe do like a shameless plug right now. There's one called Designer or something. Anyway, whatever.
Mm.
It writes the book from like titles and like even designs the cover and everything for
Yeah,
you.
yeah. No,
So
I was
like
yeah.
there is AI for pretty much anything right now.
No,
Like
we're
AI for
doomed.
music,
Yeah, I
basically.
was watching
Like
I was watching shorts about this guy who like gets AI to generate country songs for him, and some of them are pretty
yeah,
hilarious. But if all country music would turn into this, it would not be a happy a happy place. I could tell you that much.
It's same thing in code. If all the codes are going to be generated, then it removes a lot of creativity from it.
Yeah.
Like it's just, c'est ça.
Yeah. So
But
I
it is
guess,
what it
you
is.
know, in conclusion, the one tangible thing that we kind of came up from this conversation is like, if you want a better gauge of a person you're hiring, ask them about what they do outside of work code wise and
Yeah.
base your answers on that. And all the rest was just waffling for
We did our
however
best.
long. Yeah.
We did our
We did
best.
our best under the circumstances.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Well,
yeah.
thank you, Vasily.
Thank you, Mo. Maybe we'll spend some time thinking about it, and if you
Yeah,
know, if you end up on a hiring or interviewing spree and get some insight, it would be interesting to hear about it
okay,
in the future.
for sure, for sure.
All right.
I will be happy to share.
Yeah. And for everyone who's watching, if you have the secret sauce for getting really great candidates, let us know. And thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking with us, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much and have a great day. Bye.